Hello all and welcome to your new Realist Tax and Public Records training. I'm going to tell you a little bit about your new tax and public record system, similar to your old tax and public record system, which I will refer to as Realist Classic, as you will hear through this webinar. The new version of Realist you'll hear me refer to as Realist or Realist 2 as well. So we'll get in there pretty quickly and show you how to use Realist, but also just to start, I'd like to go into a quick PowerPoint and show you exactly how it is that you use Realist and some of the data that we'll be giving you in Realist as well. By the way, my name is Brent Adams, National Trainer for Realist, and for the next 90 minutes we'll be telling you a little bit about how to use your new tax and public record system. So for those of you who've had the chance to click into Realist yet, you might have noticed this is your new homepage. So simple integrated interface split into really three main portions, this screen. Your search section is here on the left, where you can search by any kind of attributes that you'd like, from sale information to prices to physical characteristics. And all of your results are returned in one of two places over here on the right, that being the map, where you can see we'll put red push pins where the properties are located, and also on grid, where we'll put some snapshot information about these properties that can be sorted and moved around as well. Now, double-clicking in a number of places, either on the grid or on the map, will bring you to a property detail page for a particular property, and here's what that looks like. One of the things you're noticing is we're starting to integrate more with your MLS data, including photos that you're going to see at the top of the report. You'll also see some maps and your basic information that you're used to seeing on your Realist Classic property detail report as well. The buttons that you used to see at the top of this report have now replaced by these tabs, so all of the supplementary reports that go along with the property detail page are now found up here. So we're taking maps from Bing Maps, same maps we used in Realist Classic. We're taking property data from recorded documents from the assessor's office. We're taking your MLS data, and we're also taking third-party data about schools and businesses and neighborhoods. And we're putting it all together in one nice package called Realist, so you can put together some nice reports and really do all the searching you need to just in one place. So let's talk a little bit about some of the data that we're bringing into Realist for you. Number one, your tax data. That's going to be updated annually in Colorado. We'll talk a little bit about your assessment data on the next couple of slides as well. Transactions are collected from recorded documents as well. So for sales, mortgages, and foreclosures, depending on our county, we're updating as often as maybe once a day, sometimes maybe as little as once a week, but you'll see in each of your counties about how often we update for those recorded documents. And we also use some proprietary rules to determine things like when properties are owned by the bank and a couple other things as well. Your MLS data, as I mentioned, is coming into the new version of Realist much more than it ever was in Realist Classic. We're actually updating your information and your photos on a daily basis. So whenever anything's updated about one of your listings, whether it's the status, the listing date, the price data, anything like that, even the photos, those are updated each day, and we'll bring that updated information into Realist. We load your current information and your historical listings as well, so you get a complete listing history for each property. And the other thing that we're doing is bringing in some of the fields that you enter into your listings, the core fields like bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, the year the home was built. And we're displaying them right alongside the data that we get from the county for those properties as well. Now, occasionally there can be discrepancies when that occurs. Sometimes the information you might get from a listing isn't exactly the same as the information that we might get from the county, and when there is a discrepancy, we'll display those amounts or those discrepancies alongside each other and show you exactly where those fields are coming from. So we're not telling you who's right or who's wrong, but that it's up to your discretion as to which value you feel more comfortable using. By the way, we do load up to 25 photos for each property, so that's the maximum that Realist can bring in, and they will be the photos from the most recent listing. That could be a listing that you just put up last week for an actively listed property. Could be a listing that occurred 4 years ago on a sold listing. We'll still show the photos from that property, so just keep in mind those photos are only as recent as the most recent listing associated with that property. As for some assessor updates, some of the tax information and assessment information we get, here are some of your core counties, mostly up and down the Front Range. You can see how often we update per year. Certainly El Paso will be an important county for the Pikes Peak MLS. We update 4 times per year with the assessor's office with El Paso, and you can see some of the other frequencies with which we update with the assessor's office in some of your other counties as well. Additionally, as far as your transaction updates, these are those. This is the information that's coming from recorded documents like sales and mortgages. And you can see in certain counties as often as 4 times per week, other counties maybe once a week. And you can also see how far back we go for sales history. So in some cases, as far back as the early 70s and even late 60s in some cases as well. So you can see all of your key counties there and how often we update with those. As for the mapping data in Realist, that's one of the most improved features of the new version of Realist. You'll really like a lot of the features that we'll show you on the maps when we get there. Our GIS data, that allows us to put those parcel lines or those boundary lines right around the properties. Those are updated annually. And those are very nice because they allow you to actually just click on a parcel and find information about that particular property. So some nice visual ways to find information. And there's also a lot of visual ways to display information, like other boundaries, neighborhoods, zip codes, school districts, counties. All of those lines and those boundaries can be laid over the map, and they're all updated annually. Your flood zone information also can be overlaid on the map. That's updated monthly. We bring in points of interest from Bing Maps as well. So for schools, hospitals, restaurants, places to go shopping, all the information that we can get from Bing, we bring into Realist, and we'll show you icons where those things exist on the map, and we'll show you phone numbers and addresses for them as well. And rather than just show points of interest, we can show all kinds of data attributes on the map, like your listing statuses, where the most recent sales are, your physical characteristics like bedrooms and bathrooms and square footages. All these things can be put on the map right on top of the individual parcels that belong to those properties. And then you can also show some larger overarching trends via some heat maps. So we can show you either by neighborhood or by zip code where the areas of higher sale prices are, higher sales activity, where the foreclosures are, things of that nature as well. Now, Realist can also be used as a marketing tool as well. And we update a lot of different things about Realist to make sure that you can use it effectively as a marketing tool. So our Do Not Mail list is updated quarterly, and Realist will not allow you to print out mailing labels for people who are on the Do Not Mail list. You will not be able to print them out. So anyone who's asked to not be solicited by direct mail via Realist, or excuse me, via the Do Not Mail Association, we will not allow you to print out mailing labels for those folks. Now, as for the people who do want to be reached by mail, we geocode all those parcels quarterly. We've got the zip+4 and carrier route encoding on physical addresses and owners' mailing addresses as well. We also update information about your schools and businesses and your neighborhoods on a quarterly basis as well. So we're trying to keep all that information as up to date for you as possible. Just some quick basic system facts before we hop into this demo. I do want to let you know that we suggest that you use Microsoft Internet Explorer, Firefox. Those are the browsers that we're optimized for. That's not to say you can't use other browsers. Chrome will work just fine, as will Safari and a number of others. Those just happen to be the best browsers to use for Realist. One thing I do want to note, we do use the Adobe Flex application. So the most recent version of Adobe Flash is required. I think we're up to 11 dot something right about now. Now, if you don't have the most recent version of Flash, Realist will take you out to Adobe so you can download it, and then you can view Realist. So we'll take care of that for you. Now, for those of you out there who might have an iPad or other tablet device, you might know that those tablet devices very often don't work very well with Flash. So we have devised a light version of Realist called Realist Lite. So we'll detect when you're coming into Realist from an iPad or another tablet device, and we'll send you out to what we call Realist Lite. Now, all your preferences in Realist Lite will be controlled by your full desktop version as far as the way you like reports to show up and things like that. And you'll also be able to search for people by address, by name, by tax ID or schedule number, also by your listing number as well. And you'll have access to the main reports, like the property detail page and the neighborhood profile report and the comp report. However, a lot of the mapping features you'll see won't be available to you on the iPad because many of them are Flash-based. And basically, if you understand how to use the desktop version of Realist that I'm about to show you today, understanding how to use the iPad version is really going to be quite easy for you. So with that said, let's hop out of this PowerPoint and get right into some Realist training. I am going to show you how to link into Realist from Fusion. There are also those of you who might be linking in from Tempo as well. They're relatively similar programs, but we'll show you where the links are in Fusion. The ones in Tempo aren't too much different, and I'll try to point those out as well. There's only one way to get into Realist, and that is either through Tempo or Fusion. But you can also get right in from a listing. So if I come down here to my hot sheet and click on my new listings, we'll get a one-line format first. And Tempo is very similar to this as well. When you hover over the information here for Fusion, the number 1, and I think it's relatively similar in Tempo, you get a number of icons coming up. The last couple of them are $ icons. One says Realist Tax App, one says Realist 2. The Realist 2 link is going to take you, open up a new window and take you into Realist and open up the property detail page in Realist. And pardon me, it looks like I got logged out there for a moment. So I just click the map link. And when I click the map link, what Realist is going to do, it's going to open up Realist in a new window for you. And it's going to map the property exactly where it's located. So we're going to put that push pin right there on the map for you. And we're also going to give you a little bit of information about that property down here in the grid as well. So that's the tax map link. Now you can also come over here and you can click on the Realist 2 link as well. And when you click on that and it opens a new window for you, that's going to open up the actual property detail page in Realist for you. So as that loads up, behind it, of course, will always be the map. But this will actually take you right past the map and take you right to the actual property detail page in Realist, so you can see the photos and all of your different sections of information about this particular property as well. So that's just one way to get in from a listing, and if you actually click on the listing again and get into the detailed version of that particular listing, you'll also see all of those icons are also repeated down here as well. So you see all those different icons, Realist 2, Realist Tax Map, they still take you to the same place. Also, your schedule number is going to take you to the Realist 2 property detail report as well. So those are all the different ways you can get in from a listing. Now, if you go to the home page, there are a couple of other ways into Realist as well, and we've still given you a couple of ways into Realist Classic. Under the Smart Links, for example, there are a number of different links. There's your Realist Classic link. There's always also going to be a link to Realist 2. If you come up here to the Public Records tab, you can see there's a link to Realist Classic, and there's also a link to Realist 2. That Realist Classic link is going to be going away in July, and you'll just see the Realist 2 link after that. But we'll just click into that Realist 2 link, and we'll go into the home page first. So we'll probably end up staying there for the rest of the day, so I'm going to maximize my screen, make it nice and big for everybody, make sure everyone can see. And we're going to start on this Realist homepage, and of course coming into the Realist homepage, you're just not going to have the benefit of coming in from a listing, so we're not going to map any properties, and we're not going to show any information down here on the grid. I also do want you to note that when you're in Realist itself, there's also a Realist Classic button up here, so if you ever need to get to the classic version of Realist, this is just another way to do that. So here we are in the home page, and let's talk a little bit about how we can move the home page around and what we're looking at here. We're on the search section. This is where you get all your business done in Realist. We'll tell you about preferences in a little bit, where you can change Realist and how you like to search for information, how you like to have it returned. And of course, we'll cover the help section at the end, which is a very good place to find out how to use things in Realist as well. But the main search section is split into 3 parts. Again, the search section, the map, and the grid. But all these things can be changed as well. So if you want to make Realist a little bit more grid and a little less map, or a little bit more map and a little bit less grid, all you have to do is just grab the middle there, and you can move Realist up or down if you want to. Now, entire sections of charts can also be hidden as well. So if you are done using your search section and you want to hide it for a little bit, you can do that too. You can also make Realist one big grid. If you want to work with information when you've got a number of properties returned here, this is almost like your one-line property list format in Realist Classic. You can, again, also bring back your search section. You can also take a look at Realist and just make it one big map if you want to. And you can even look at a split view if you'd like as well. So everything kind of works in conjunction with each other in Realist, so we'll leave all these up for just a little bit. And we'll start going into detail over here on the search section, because when you come into Realist, likely you want to do some searches. And I think most of you will probably want to be searching in either one or potentially multiple counties. And you can see right now we're searching in El Paso County. Most recent recording date, April 22nd, 2013. At the time of this recording, that's just 4 days behind the current date, so we're doing pretty well in El Paso County as far as keeping current with those recorded deeds of sale. And if you want to search in other counties, we cover the entire state of Colorado for you. One of the big differences between Realist Classic and the new version of Realist is that rather than just search in one county at a time and then have to do that same search in another county, you can actually click up to 8 different counties if you want to. So we can search in up to 8 counties, as you can see down here in the lower left, and you'll also see the most recent recording date on each and every single one of our counties as well. Now, I'll end up staying in El Paso County for the most part today, but you can search in as many or as few counties as you like going forward. Now, about 90% of the folks who probably come in and are going to perform searches in Realist will likely want to use the quick search tab. There's also a My Search tab. So there's a lot of different things you can do here on the My Search tab, and we'll get to more about that in a bit. But Quick Search really just allows you to search by an address string, and inputting a partial address will also likely allow us to find it. An owner name, last name first, and then MLS listing number or your scheduler parcel ID number as well. There's a couple of tools here that you should be aware of. For example, if I put in a partial name, for example here in owner name, you notice I have a starts with wildcard turned on. Perhaps I don't know if Mr. Donaldson spells his name with an O at the end of it or with an E at the end of it. Regardless, if I have that wildcard turned on and I just put in the first few letters of his name, I'll be able to find that person. And if you change it to is, it'll need to be spelled exactly as it's stored in the Realist database. The other thing that's nice is that you can add multiple values, whether it's listing numbers, prices, street names, owner names. You can add multiple values, and just by hitting that plus sign, add as many as you'd like, and you can search for all the different people with different last names or a number of other searches as well. To get rid of anything in those boxes, you can just X them out, or of course go into that box and delete it yourself. So that's really the four most searched on attributes that we see in Realist, but we also give you the ability to create your own custom searches as well. So under the My Search section, you are able to create a custom search, and you can use any of the search attributes that we've created for you here. So quite a lot to search on. We've tried to organize them into logical sections for you, so if you're looking for foreclosed properties or distressed properties, you can do that here. If you're looking for listing information or physical characteristics, you'll find them all under these sections. Now that can be a very daunting task to create those searches from scratch, and what you will notice is the old out-of-the-box searches in Realist Classic are gone now. So we've given you the chance to create new ones, but what we've also done is we've worked with the MLS and we've created what we call administrative searches. These searches here with locks on them are searches that we've worked with the MLS to create for you. They will always be here the first and every time you log into Realist. You can't delete them, you can't save over them, you can't change them. Certainly you can save over them, or excuse me, you can save on top of them. You can change them, add things to them, and save them as different names if you'd like to, but these will always stay here for you. So you'll always see these ones with the locks. I've got a couple of searches and forms that we call them over here that I've created. These are ones that you won't see unless you create your own custom searches. Now a form is described as a search or a search boxes without any data in them, whereas a search does have information in it. When I open up that 13 Oak search, you notice I've got data already pre-populated in my address fields, and that property or that search entitled 13 Oak, not surprisingly, is going to find a property located at 13 Oak in Colorado Springs. Now when Realist only finds one property, it will automatically open a property detail report for you. If you do close out of that report, we've always got that property mapped for you behind, and it's also here on the grid. And if you ever need to get back into that property detail page, you can either click on this icon here, open it up using the View Reports icon, or you can double-click on it on the grid, and that will also open your property detail page back up if you'd like to. But once that report is opened, again, the map is always behind you. So here's your property detail page. As you can see, this is an actively listed property. This green bubble is going to indicate when a property is listed. You'll also see different colors for different listings or different listing types. Sold will be red, expired will be purple, and orange will be pending. Now, when we do have a listing associated with the property, that usually means we have photos that come along with that listing, and that's why you're seeing a nice pretty picture of the front of the house. If we don't have photos or we don't have a listing associated with the property, you will see the Bing bird's eye imagery, and you'll usually see a nice little blue bubble over the top of that house. But when we have a photo of the front of the house, that usually means we've got more photos that the agent has put up for that listing. And by clicking on that photo, you'll see in this case we have 25. So you can see the front of the house, also the beautiful kitchen, the living area, nice backyard. All of the photos that that agent has taken for that property are now showing up here in Realist, and when they're updated, they'll be updated the next day in Realist as well. You've also got a bit of a property summary here with some information both coming from listing data and also from tax data too. And then moving down a little bit lower, we'll start to show you information about this particular property. For example, who owns it in the owner information section. It's Sean and Pamela Page. Their tax billing address is where we assume their primary residence is, where they get their tax information sent every year. And when that matches to the physical address of the property, as it does in this case, we assume that's an owner-occupied property. A lot of times you'll see a tax billing address across the state, in a different country, in a different town maybe, and those are properties that we assume are non-owner occupied, rental properties, investment properties, and potentially vacation homes as well. In your location information section, vital information like your subdivision, school district name, mailing carrier route, zoning, your market area, your neighborhood code, your township range, and section numbers as well. Your tax information section has gotten a lot smaller from Realist Classic. We've got your different tax ID and account numbers. one formatted, one not formatted in this case, your tax area, your block number, your legal description as well. But the reason that section has gotten a little bit smaller is because we've added an assessment and tax table where now, rather than giving you the most recent year's worth of assessment and tax data, we'll give you the 3 most recent years of assessment and tax data and the dollar and percentage change year over year for each of those amounts. Next, we'll move into the characteristics section. Here's where we're showing information that we both get from the assessment record and also now from the listing as well. And here's where those discrepancies we talked about can occur as well. So for example, you're seeing for the year built 1954, but now you go down to finished area and we've got a discrepancy there. According to the tax record, it's a 3,200 square foot home. According to the MLS, it's a 3,700 square foot home. Now, I must tell you that right now we're going to be changing that up. That information for finished area that's coming in from the MLS is going to be showing here on the estimated gross area. So that's going to be showing down there, so we're going to have a perfect match. But what you'll see is when there are discrepancies, we will show them to you. We'll show you, for example, according to the tax record, this is a 4-bedroom home. According to the MLS, it's a 5-bedroom home. Again, not telling you who's right, not telling you who's wrong. We're just letting you know that there happens to be a discrepancy. It's up to your discretion as to which value you feel more comfortable using. Now, we do agree on how many bathrooms there are. Full bathrooms, 2. So you can see that we'll only show one value, but by messing over it, we'll show you exactly where that's coming from. Half-bath information only coming from the listing rather from the county. So in that case, the listing is filling in the blanks for us. So for about 9 fields, you'll see those composite fields, square footages. Also, you'll see some things going on with bedrooms, bathrooms, year built, a couple of others as well. And otherwise, that's where you can find all the physical characteristics about your house. We also have a features section where you can see if there's anything else that's been added extra on the house as well, or any equipment that's coming along with the house. And then we move into the listing information section. So you can see this is an actively listed property, how many days it's been on the market, status change date, your listing date, current and original list prices, and the listing agent and broker name as well. And here's the first of many places where you can link back into the listing in either Tempo or Fusion. And you can take a look at that listing and even the listing history for that particular property too. Down here with the drop down, you've got that whole listing history. But that just opens up in a new window. Realist is always open up behind. And if you do need some snapshot of that listing history, you've got it down here at the bottom too in Realist. Moving down a little bit further into your last market sale and sales history. The last arm's length transaction will show up in the last market sale, the last time money has changed hands. You've got your document number and the owner and the seller names, and then we'll also show you the sales history for this property where we'll show you both arm's length transactions and non-arm's length transactions when no money has changed hands. Perhaps maybe it's just a name change on the deed. So in this case, you can see that it's the Biles that purchased the property in 1983 for $180,000 and eventually sold to the Pages in 2004 for $335,000. We also have the mortgage history for this house as well. In this case, we've got mortgages dating back to 2005, but when you see these scroll bars down here at the bottom in Realist, that usually means we've got more information to show you. So if I scroll all the way out to the end of our mortgage history, you can see we've got the mortgage that was taken out on July 28th of 2004 that matches up pretty well to the purchase date of the house by the Pages here. They took out a $295,000 mortgage. Looks to me like they probably put $40,000 down on the house. So with a little bit of detective work, you can usually figure out what the equity history is in this home. We'll show firsts, we'll show second mortgages, we'll show home equity lines of credit. We don't show any remaining balances on these mortgages, so if they've been paid off, they don't disappear from our system. We just show record of them having been taken out, when, from whom, and by whom, and in what amount. And then scrolling down to the bottom, we've got your property map and also 2 different maps for you. One is going to include the GIS data with estimated lot dimensions, and I would stress these are estimated. We only estimate them based on the GIS data provided to us by the county, but very often they'll show you what the actual legally accepted lot dimensions are in the characteristics section. And then we back up a little bit and show you where that property is located as far as major cross streets and other subdivisions and things of that nature are concerned. So that's your property detail report. Again, your flagship report, probably the one you'll be spending the most time on in Realist, but there are a number of other reports that we have to cover for you as well, and they are in the form of these tabs up top. We'll start with the comparables tab, literally our one-button comp report. Once I press that tab, I will come up with a number of different comps. And the comps that I come up with, if you have questions on that, are going to be based on some criteria that we've set in our preferences as defaults for you the first time you get into Realist. So every single report does have a Modify Preferences button down here at the bottom. And if you'd like to change it, as you likely would with any comp report that you run, you can click on that Modify Preferences button, and a dialog box will open up that allows you to change those things. So you can ask for as many as 50 comps. I've asked for 20. I asked mine to be sorted by distance from subject, closest to furthest, but you may choose other ways to sort them. I like to display my map and my property images on my next report. And the big change in the comp report is your search criteria. So in Realist Classic, we always used to run a comp report based entirely on tax data. But now we're integrating much more with your MLS data, so much so in Realist 2 that we could run a CMA based on just your MLS data within Realist, although it would look very similar to a CMA that you might run in Fusion or Tempo. I like to use both. The more sources I can get my tax information from, or I can get my information from on my comp report, the better my comp report will look. So I tend to use both. And the rest is relatively self-explanatory. If you're comping a home with a pool, you might want to ensure that the other homes you return as comps either do or do not have pools. How far would you like to go from your subject property to find your comps? When should these comps have been built? How many beds, bathrooms, or stories should they've had? If you do use just tax data, you can actually choose to include or exclude what we call distress sales. And you can even keep those comps within a specific geographic boundary. But if you use the both radio button, those will get grayed out, or the MLS button. You can go back a static number of months from today's date, as many as 12 months. I've decided to go back 10. However, if you need to go back many years, if you're an appraiser doing an estate valuation, maybe you want to go back many years to do a comp, you can use our date range and even go back using this calendar as long as you want and do comps for a number of years back in the past if you want to. But I'll just go back 10 months. Living and building area difference right now is set to 15%. What that means is if I were comping a 1,000 square foot home right now, I would not return any comps larger than 1,150 square feet or smaller than 850 square feet. And you can even input a specific square foot range if you'd like to. Lot area works the same way. As far as the style of a home, not every county collects information on the style of homes. Those that do, you'll be able to specify that you only want comps returned of a certain style. Those that do not, if the county does not collect that information, Realist won't have that information, and you won't be able to sort your comps by that. So again, use that at your discretion. Just make sure you're in an area where you know that the properties that you're looking at are going to have style information available from the county. As for land use code, I've got mine set to same as subject, because if I'm comping a single-family residential home, I'd likely like to return other single-family residential homes rather than condos or anything else. Save and submit. We'll save all of these preferences for this comp report and all comp reports going forward. Submit will change them just this one time for this comp report and leave them alone going forward. Cancel won't do anything at all. Then we can come down here to the comp summary page, and we can take a look at both the summary statistics and also some of these columns of data to decide whether or not we want to include or exclude some of these reports. Now you'll see we'll still show those discrepancies for bedrooms and bathrooms and stories and things of that nature. You can also look at the map and say, well, some of these potentially I might not want to include. Number 10 and number 8. Those look like they're rather far away. So is number 9. Maybe we'll uncheck those, and now some of those ones that are on the other side of the highway are now gone. We can also take a look at some of these columns and say, you know, some of these sales are a little bit low, maybe $75,000. That's a very low sale price. Maybe we want to take that one out. 644 was rather high. We can take that one out. Now, you can also move these columns. If you want to widen them and make the address a little bigger, or if you like the sale price on the other side of city, all those things can be changed by you by clicking and dragging, and these things are saved automatically for you when you do them. So the next time you come into this comp summary report, that's the order and the width those columns are going to appear in. Then there's a number of columns that don't have headers on them because they generally only contain icons. So you've got your distress sale indicator, your foreclosure indicator, your listing indicator, your photo indicator, and also your property detail indicator. And clicking on those icons will take you to a property detail report, the photos for these properties, and in the case of these listing icons, will actually again open up that listing in Fusion and or Tempo, and we can take a look at that listing for that particular property that again might cause you to include it or exclude it from your comp report. Notice those summary statistics update on the fly when we check or uncheck these particular properties. And then when we run that comp report, now I've only got 6 properties checked, so rather than running it with 11, we'll just run it with those 6. And here's my comp report itself. So again, the map where we'll map those properties is interactive. It can be changed around and moved around if you'd like to click it and drag it, or if you'd like to change any of the map views, you can do that as well. Here's the search criteria we use to find those comps, and then coming down lower, here's your comp report itself. Subject property on the left, comps 1, 2, and 3 out to the right. But we know we've got more information to see. We've got 6 comps. I can go out a single column, and instead of looking at comps 1, 2, and 3, I'm now looking at comps 2, 3, and 4. And you can go for a set of columns or even go all the way back to the beginning or the end using some of these controls as well. Otherwise, that's your comp report where you can compare all your properties back and forth in nice column and rows. If you do need to change the report at all, you can go down to the Edit Report to select different comps if you'd like to, or go back to that Modify Preferences section as well. So there's your comp report. Next, we'll move on to the Market Trends Report, which is a new report for you. What we've tried to do with the new version of Realist is give you some nice colorful charts, give you some nice looking graphs as well, put together some nice reports that hopefully you'd feel good printing out, taking a look at, imparting some good knowledge to clients. For example, we've got market conditions here. Here's your median list prices in up to the 3 geographic areas, even 4 geographic areas where this property is located. You can see the zip code being 80906, the city, Colorado Springs, county being El Paso, and in some cases the neighborhood being the Broadmoor neighborhood as well. Right now I'm looking at these stats by quarter, so we're going back 3 years to find these stats, so quite a long ways, but you can see all the different trends as far as sale prices, as far as active listings. We'll give you an active listings rate change, your sales activity rate change, and then we move into distressed properties as well. So you can see the number of foreclosures in these areas, the foreclosures rate change month over month. The percentage of foreclosures, always nice to see them trending down. Of those foreclosures, which of them fit into one of our 2 foreclosure stages, either pre-foreclosure or bank-owned. Auction is available in some of your counties. El Paso, it is not. And then we go down into your financial health section where we'll show you your median loan to value and your percentage and number of homes with negative equity as well. Now, as with all the reports, you've got a Modify Preferences button. If you'd like, you can change a number of things about these reports. You can either add or remove those sections of charts and their descriptions. You can look at these trends for just single-family residential homes or just condos. I can also look at these trends monthly, and I can remove any of those geographic boundaries as well, as far as neighborhood, zip code, city, or county if I want to. Now that we are looking at monthly trends, we'll only go back for the most recent 12 months, and as you can see, we've got April of 2012 showing up from March 2013, and as we get through March, you'll see April's numbers, as we get through April, you'll start to see April's numbers show up for 2013, and April of 2012 will drop off. So always that rolling 12-month, or in the case of quarterly, 3-year period. Next, we'll move over to the Neighbors Report. And the Neighbors Report has changed quite a bit from Realist Classic. It used to allow you to search for properties surrounding a specific home, and you could filter out quite a lot of information about them, like when it was built or who owned it or what they paid for it. Now this is much more of a buyer's tool, really, and I'll illustrate this by clicking on the Modify Preferences button. We allow you to find the 30 closest neighbors to a subject property as much as 3 miles away. You can show your map, you can show your images on this report, and the only real filter you have is going to be geographic in nature. You can keep them on the same street, in the same city, in the same zip code if you want to. I've chosen no preference, so as you can see, I'm just getting my 30 closest neighbors surrounding the home. Otherwise, it looks quite a bit like your comp report. Your subject property on the left, neighbors 1, 2, and 3 out to the right. Same scroll mechanism we used on the comparables report as well, and you see if we don't have MLS photos for these particular homes, we will default to those Bing bird's eye images. So again, really kind of much better as a buyer's tool if you've got somebody looking to buy this house on 13 Oak and they want to take a look at their neighbors. They'll see here that my neighbors lived there since 86, so this one since 94, so some nice long-time neighbors. You can see, well, geez, why is their tax so much less than mine is, and why is their yard so much bigger than mine is? Again, you can call it your nosy neighbor report, for lack of a better word, but that is now your new neighbors report. Next is your neighborhood profile report, which includes a lot of the same information we used to give you in Realist Classic, but again, we've tried to put in some nicer looking charts, some better looking graphs, and put together, again, some nice statistics for you that hopefully are a little bit better to print out and bring for your sun appointments and whatnot as well. But as those graphics load up, you'll see that neighborhood profile report is now aggregated by zip code rather than census tract and block as it was in Realist Classic. So we're looking at trends for 80906 in this case. Here's your population summary, how big or how many folks live here right now, population density, median age of folks that live here, how many houses there are, how many households have children. What's the population distribution by age, by gender, by marital status? Then we move down into some housing statistics. You can see the average home sale price, what sort of equity people have in their homes, what sort of mortgage debt they have as well, how long people are living here, how many homes are rented versus owned versus vacant, and what are people paying in rent for those that are renting here? Where do people work? How much does each household make? How far do they commute to work every day, and how do they get there? And what sort of level of education have the people that lived here achieved as well? So that ends a lot of the information from demographics that we get from the U.S. Census. Then we move down into some information about nearby schools and businesses. And in this case, I just asked to find schools within a 1-mile radius of this property, and I found 3. So you can see we'll give you some stats about these particular schools, how many students per teacher. We'll even give you some ratings. Great schools ratings are completely impartial. They're based entirely on state standardized test scores, whereas community ratings are going to be coming from parents, teachers, past students, and they'll give a rating of 1 to 5 stars rather than 1 to 10, but 1 to 5 stars, and that'll be a little bit more of a partial rating, of course. We'll even link out to those school websites if you want to. So if you click on that hyperlink there, we'll open up the school website for the school that you're looking for too. Moving down a little bit further into your businesses, you can see I've got a number of businesses showing up, a maximum of 1 mile away from my property. And we can also take a look at the Modify Preferences button here and see how we can affect this report too, because it can get rather long. So if you'd like to make it a little bit smaller in some cases, you can choose to exclude those demographics just by unchecking that box. Same thing with schools. I've asked to find schools within a mile, both public and private schools, and you can see we're finding more than just K through 12. We can find preschool all the way up through college and vocational schools as well. Now businesses, I've asked to find those within a 1-mile radius, and I've selected every single business category. We'll only ever display a maximum of 25 businesses for you. However, I've asked to limit mine to 10 per category because otherwise, again, the report gets rather long. As you can see, you'll always come up with about 10 banks within a mile of a property, 10 places to eat. That's why we're only finding 10, and we're not quite going out that full mile. It's a good place also to point out that when you print out, save, or email reports, you are also always well represented down here at the bottom of the report. Your name and the name of the association will be down at the bottom. So it looks like you put together quite a lot of information, and all you had to do was click the neighborhood profile button here in Realist, and if you ever do want to print out any of these reports, down at the lower right-hand corner of every single report, you've always got a print, save, and email button. And when I hit those print, save, or email buttons, there's always going to be 2 choices. One is going to be quick, one will be customize. Quick means I'm going to generate a PDF for the report that I'm on right now. So I'm on a property detail report at the moment. So it's going to open up a 3-page report for that property detail page. You've got your photos, you've got all the information about your assessment, your tax, even down here at the bottom you've got your maps. But that's quite a lot of information. So maybe you have reason to make it a little bit smaller, or maybe you just want to print out more reports. You've also got a customize option. And when you click that customize option, you're going to get a dialog box that opens up that allows you to choose how many of these reports you want to print out and how much or how little information you'd like to include in each of them. So you've got your neighborhood profile report. Perhaps the people you're sending these reports to don't have children. They don't care where the schools are. We'll give them all these other reports. Maybe when you get to the property detail report, you don't feel like sharing sensitive information like mortgages and foreclosures. You can take all that out as well, and Realist will remember the last things that you've chosen. So choose, again, as many or as few reports as you want with as much or as little information as you'd like to include in them as well. So we'll cancel out of here right now, and I'll also show you our email template, because emails will come out of Realist, so they will be PDF attachments. These reports will be attached to that email. They will come out of Realist, but they will appear to come from the email address that you specify in the from field, and replies will go back to that email address. Put in as many to addresses or CC addresses as you'd like, and we've taken the liberty of putting in a generic subject, Realist report headline there, and we've also taken a little bit of text and put it down here in the body as well, but you're welcome to change that, and you can also input your own personal email signature. I've just put in this John J. Realtor one, but you can put in whatever you'd like and format a lot of this text the way you'd like to as well. So that's how you email reports, and that really ends our portion on reports. So I'm going to close out of here real quickly, and we're going to move back to the map. So I'm going to make it, again, one big map in Realist here. And one of the things I do want to point out is the parcel lines that you see, these gray lines, and they're very nice. They allow you to just actually click on a property and find out more information about them. So if you want to know who your neighbor is in the backyard, you can see that it's Kevin and Tracy. Or if your neighbor over here on the left-hand side, whose dog is always barking at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's David and Jerry Lynn. So you can, again, just walk the block, find anything that you want to about these properties. You'll see homes such as this one that are actively listed with quite a lot of information on them. Photo thumbnails, which allow you to get to those photos for those properties. You can also zoom quickly right into that property using the zoom button. Additionally, if you click on that property, you can estimate the lot dimensions. You can also get out to that suite of reports or even use the reverse link feature where, again, we're going to go back into Tempo or Fusion in this case and find that listing for that property as well. Now, otherwise, we do use Bing Maps, same way we used them in Realist Classic. I'll show you a road view for the most part today because we're going to load a lot of things on top of the map and it'll be easier to see them. But we do have aerial views as well. We also have hybrid views. Those are going to give you the added benefit of throwing the street names in over the aerial views. And then we also have bird's eye images. So whereas these are satellite images, and we can get relatively close with them, the bird's eye images are going to be flyover images taken at 4 different directions from the house at up to 45-degree angles from the house. So again, you can see this is our furthest level of zoom. Here's our closest. And just by clicking on the compass point here, whether you want or not you want to look at the house from the north, or in this case the south, and we can also look at it from the west field too, or even the east. Now notice a lot of these tools go away that we're about to show you, but when we come back to a road view or an aerial view, they do come back. Also keep in mind, I'm just using a scroll wheel here. I scroll out using my scroll wheel. I can also do that using the plus or minus keys. The map can also easily be clicked and dragged, or you can use these compass points to move in smaller increments if you'd like. So we're going to start with some drawing tools over here on the right now. You've always been able to draw shapes in Realist and find homes within those shapes, but there's been some new changes to those shapes as well. So we do have that radius tool. If you want to click on it, all you need to do at that point is click on the map, let go of your mouse, move your mouse, and we'll give you a running total of how big that circle is going to be. Now I click again to finish it, but it did a couple of things there when I did finish up that shape. It added it to my map permanently, and then you also see it added it to my search over here because I am now only performing a search within the confines of this shape. That's why city and zip code are blanked out. I'm not searching in those areas anymore. I'm just searching in this circle. Clearly my house here at 13 Oak Street outside the realm of that circle, so I won't find it. But what you can do now that you were not able to do in Realist before is you can move these. You can make them bigger. You can make them smaller. So you can change them around if you'd like to. Now we know my home is located within that circle, and it's going to find it located right in there in the middle. Now, since, again, when you only find one property, we're going to open up a property detail page. Realist is now trying to load up that property detail page. And there's that property detail page for you as well. So as we close out of there, you'll see the property was found there in the map, as you can see. And again, we can move that shape if we need to. We can also change it if we'd like to. You can change the name of it if you want. So there are plenty of things that you can do. If you want to hide it temporarily, you can. You can see it's called Circle 1 right now. Maybe if this is an area that I run a search in all the time, I can call this my Oak Street farm area if we want to. You can see it will change it over here on the search. You can even save this search with this shape in it too. You can also draw multiple shapes if you'd like. So if you want to move over to a rectangle, you can do that too. We call it a polygon. Now you're searching within both the confines of these shapes. And of course we call it a polygon because these things can be changed. They can be moved. You can make them in any little shape or pattern that you want to. They're easy enough to delete just by hitting the delete shape button. You can also X them out of your search over here too, and they'll go away. So a nice real-world example as to why you might want to use these shapes is, let's just say, for the sake of this demo, I just sold this property here on Oak Avenue, and I'm a new realtor in the area. I want to drum up some business, and I want to let people know in this neighborhood that I can sell that I've sold this house. I can probably sell yours. You might want to list your house with me. So I know exactly who I want to market to geographically, so let's use this polygon tool. I'll just come over here, and I don't really want to go west of 7th Street. And we'll come over here, and I'll go up to Crestmore, come down here to Oak Avenue, and really, you can draw a very unique shape. So you get the idea that after you double click here, you can draw a very unique shape, market only to the people you want to market to. Right now, if I were to run this search without any information in any of these boxes, I'd find every single person in this shaded area, and I could market to them if I'd like to. But let's target my marketing a little bit better. Let's go over an example, maybe find people who've lived in their house for a while, because somebody who's lived in their house only since last week might potentially not want to list their house with me, but somebody's lived in their house for 6 or 7 years may. So I'm going to go down to the Edit Attributes button down there at the bottom, and we want to find out when people bought their houses. So we'll probably go over here to Sales Information and find Sale Date. I'll hit Apply. It'll add that search attribute to my search. It's down here at the bottom. I can click and drag it. I can put it all the way up at the top if I'd like to. These search attributes can be moved that way. Now it's asking me for an ending date and a beginning date because it's got this is between search operator on. But I can change that. I can make it an exact date, but that wouldn't be very helpful to me. If I change it to is less than, though, and I put in January 1st, 2007, now I'm looking for all the properties in this shaded area that haven't had a recorded sale on their property since January 1st of 2007, which means today, it being about midway through 2013, we're going to not find any people, or we are only going to find people who've lived in their house for at least 6.5 years. And these people are likely going to be a little bit more willing to list their house with me than maybe someone who's only lived there for a couple of months. You can see some folks have been left out, some folks are in. I have barely just intersected these parcel lines for these properties. That's why some of these are appearing outside the realm of my box. But not only are they on the map, they're also on the grid here. So now you can very quickly go through these properties on the grid. We've got 29 of them. You can see some of them are sold. Here's an expired listing. Here's an active listing. If you don't want to step on your fellow realtors' toes, we can take that one out. Again, you can look at some others. Here's a pending listing. I'll uncheck that one. And now very quickly down here at the bottom with those 27 reports, I can just create some labels. And now very quickly, after just having run that very quick shape search, I've put myself together a nice little marketing campaign of people that I could put together a just sold mailing to if we want to. So here's all your lists or all of your different labels. Put your labels in the printer and you can print them out. And we'll go through those in a little bit more detail in just a bit, but just did want to show you that's a nice little real world example as to why you might want to use some of those shape searches as well. I'm going to open up my old 13 Oak Street search here and kind of recenter myself to make sure I don't get lost somewhere here in Colorado Springs. And what we'll move on to next is we'll bring that map back to a full look after we find that one property. And again, when you only find one property, it does open up that property page. And once that property detail page opens up, we can close out of it, go back into the map. And there are a couple of other drawing tools that we can take a look at now. We've got your line tool. That's going to let you know how far you can measure distances. So for example, if you want to know how far it is from 7th Street over here to Sycamore Road, you can see it's 337 yards. And if you want to continue on up Old Broadmoor Road here, you can see how far it is up to Cypress Lane. 432 yards from that point, and my total length of my entire line segment, 770 yards. And you can just keep clicking, jogging through people's yards here today. And when you double click, finish it up, and if you want to with a steady hand here, you can give it a click, usually right here on the road, and once you've got it clicked again, you can again change it if you'd like to. Easy to get rid of that. You can just come over here to clear all shapes, and then lastly, we've also got an annotation tool for you. Let me actually just make the map a little bit bigger here. But the annotation tool actually allows you to annotate the map. So if you want to go on a listing appointment here, you can let someone know, here's where I'll meet you at 2 p.m. today. Maybe these folks do have kids and they're really interested in knowing where the nearest school is. You know, you can put another note down here. Here's the nearest school. And anything that you put on this map, really what you see is what you get. So if you want to print this map out, you can go to the print grid and or map. In this case, only the map showing, so I only want to show the map. It'll ask the orientation that you want to show the map in. So you notice I put a couple of thought bubbles there on the map. And really, basically, if you want to put up a bird's eye view or you want to show folks where potentially some of the nearby points of attractions are or anything like that, anything you put on that map will print out in that PDF, just like that. So we'll close out of there. We'll move out of drawing tools, clear out actually all those map tools, so those things will go away. And now what we can do is we can come over to your boundaries. Notice that our parcel lines are lit up. Those are going to be on as a default in Realist. And you've got a number of other parcel lines that you can put on as well. So you've got, or other boundaries, I should say. One is going to be neighborhoods. Those are going to show up in purple. So again, we've got Broadmoor, Ivywild, Broadmoor Hills, Cheyenne Hills as well. So that's a new one for you. We can also put on in purple, you can see these neighborhood boundaries. Just want to point out that in general they're going to be very good in your highly populated urban areas, but as you get a little bit further out into some of your less populated areas, you might not see as many neighborhood boundaries. But also we can load as many as 6 of these on top of the map at one time. So if you want your zip code boundaries, those are going to be in blue. Your city boundaries are going to be in green. Usually once you get about 3 or 4 of these on here, it gets to be a little too much information anyway, so we can uncheck those. We've also got your county boundaries. Those are going to be in orange. So zip, city, and county, always something you had in Realist Classic. And then your school district boundaries. Those are going to be in yellow. That's a brand new one for you. And then lastly, your flood zone information. All your flood zone information is now going to be contained on the map in the form of an overlay. So as we scroll down here just a little bit, you can see we get all of your flood zone codes, and we give you the legend down here that lets you know exactly what those flood zone codes mean. So yellow, for example, 500-year floodplain, including a levee protected area. You need more, hold down Control and click on a specific flood zone, and you will get the panel and the panel date as well. And you can easily see if a home is near multiple flood zones as well. So we'll turn off all those boundaries. Flood zones are now gone, and we'll zoom in a little bit closer into the property. And now we'll move into property and sales information. And we'll start with our distressed properties and foreclosures. So we'll show you pre-foreclosure, auction, and bank-owned. Now, auction is not available in El Paso County. It may be available in some of your counties, which is why we still have it turned on here. But you'll see the map start lighting up with some flags. For example, pre-foreclosure over here in orange. If I click on this parcel, what you'll notice about this property, and when I open up the property detail page, is that even if you just came across this property at random, you would see that, again, we've got that pre-foreclosure tag on the home, so you'll always know that there was a foreclosure action associated with that home, and there's an extra tab, too, the foreclosure tab. When you take a look at that foreclosure tab, you'll see it's a notice of trustee sale that was filed back in December of 2012. That puts us in this pre-foreclosure stage. There's your document number, borrower name, trustee name, and you can see the mortgage that's being defaulted on, a $417,000 mortgage taken out from Wells Fargo in 2008. You can also see this house has a history of having gone in and out of foreclosure. There was a notice of trustee sale filed on this property early in 2012. Then that list pendants was released in June of 2012, and here we are 6 months later with a notice of trustee sale filed again. So you can always find in that history section what's going on with that property. Very often, if those debts aren't cured, that property is going to revert back to the ownership of the holder of the mortgage. In general, it's the bank. So you can see in this case, Nation Star Mortgage LLC, they're now the current owners of that property. If we go into, again, that suite of reports for this particular home, you'll see not only is it bank owned, this one's actually a pending listing. So someone's trying to sell it for the bank. But again, with those bank owned properties, you'll also see a foreclosure tab because we're going to get information, again, coming off of a document, in this case a public trustee's deed, and you can see when that was recorded, the buyer, the mortgage recording date, and a number of other things, including the notice of trustee sale that preceded this particular foreclosure as well. So that's it for your foreclosures. We'll turn off those. Next we'll go to sales and values. We call these tax sales In Realist Classic, we used to call them Realist sales. These are going to be sales that have occurred according to the county. They do not necessarily need to have been sales that were processed through the MLS. If we've got a document, we'll let you know that that sale has occurred in the past 12 months. If you do want to see your listing statuses, here's all your active, expired, pending, and sold, so you can get an idea of what's going on with listing history for these properties or in this neighborhood, and you can see what the inventory is looking like in this area as well. Lastly, we can also put some property characteristics on top of each individual parcel, as we talked about. What are the lot areas of all these properties? You can put all your tax ID numbers on top of them, or your bedroom and bathroom count, your building square footage, or even who owns these properties. You can see right on top of these parcels as well. So that's about it for things that we can put on top of individual parcels. As I scroll out a little bit further, remember we were talking a little bit about these trends. So by zip code is one of the best ways to aggregate these trends, but if you want to see, for example, the median sale price by zip code surrounding Colorado Springs, you can see where the high dollar zip codes are. Those are going to be areas of warmer colors. And where the low dollar zip codes are, those are going to be areas of cooler colors, and you can see what we're looking at down here in the legend. You can even look at sales activity as well. So you come down here to Fountain, for example, hold down Control and click. In 80817, over a rolling 3-month period as of March 2013, there were 170 sales. But come over here to maybe just east of Colorado Springs, and over that same rolling 3-month period, only 109 sales, so a slightly cooler color there in yellow. And as you can see, as we go down to blue over here in Manitou Springs, only 15 sales. Now, you can also aggregate these by neighborhood if you'd like to, but keep in mind you're only going to get trends pretty much in the areas where we have neighborhood boundaries. So you can get very granular with the data. Very nice to look at specific neighborhoods and see what's going on in them, and specifically in Colorado Springs. You can look at these trends for single-family residential homes, condos, or both. And then remember, what you see is what you get when you print out and email these reports. So if you'd like to make it a little bit easier or a little bit harder to see the underlying map, you can do that. So we'll turn those trends off for now. We'll zoom back down into my property using my quick zoom, and then click out maybe just a couple of notches, and we can see all the points of interest coming to us from Bing Maps. For example, where are the banks, where are the schools, where are the places to eat, where are the places to shop. So my nearby school over here, Cheyenne Mountain Schools. You can also see probably what is my closest bank. A nice place to eat. There's Panino's. There's the Coal Mine Dragon. And there's Joseph's, so you can find all those as well. So you can put as many of those on top of the map at one time. Keep in mind that when it comes to things like property characteristics and boundaries, really only 6 things at one time. And then we've got driving directions as well. Put in a starting point and an ending point, and we'll give you turn-by-turn directions. You can also right-click on the map to populate that information for you. And then you can ask to get directions. Again, turn-by-turn directions. It'll take me 4 minutes to get a mile there down the street, and we'll even give you directions that can be printed, emailed, or in this case, I'll just clear them out. And that's really it for your maps. So we're going to go back to a split view for a moment. I'm going to run over to the Quick Search tab, and I'm just going to search for all the Wilkinses in in El Paso County, and we'll see how many we come up with. So we filled out that chart, or that grid down there very nicely with 83 results. We'll only ever show you 250 push pins at most on top of this map, because it gets a little busy if we do too many more than that. But you can see if you scroll in exactly where they're located. What's also very nice is if you just click on them, they pop right back up to the top of the list there, so you can always see where they're located just by clicking on them on the map or on the grid. If I uncheck all of them, they all go away, so that master checkbox goes away. But if I just check one, we'll zoom right into where that property is located. A second, we'll zoom out far enough to find both of them. A third, a fourth, a fifth, and so on and so forth. We'll click as many of them as we want. So that's really how the map and the grid work together. Let's just give ourselves a little bit of more room to work with on the grid here. So let's get rid of that grid, or get rid of that map in the search section. And again, you're seeing all kind of the same columns that we saw in the comp report as well, so the ones without headers really still include the same icons. Again, these things can be moved if you want to. If you want sale date on the other side of city or city on the other side of sale date, all these things are saved for you automatically. You can even click and drag rows if you want to, just by dragging them up and down and clicking them. But you can also sort these things too. So one way to sort these would be to go up to the column headers. Notice that I get a number 1 with an arrow pointing upwards there. If I click it, that arrow will point downwards. So I'm sorting descending by city name, so alphabetically Z to A. If I want to sort by a secondary column, I can do that too, my sale date. So now we've got my most recent sale in Peyton as 2008, my least recent in 2004. Most recent sale in Colorado Springs, 2012. Scrolling all the way down will be sales all the way down to the 1960s. So those are some good ways to sort. You can sort by primary, secondary columns. You can sort by as many as you like. If you want to clear that column sorting, come down here to Edit Grid in the lower right-hand corner and hit Clear Column Sorting. Your default sort order is your tax ID or your account number. If there's a column of data that you're not seeing, you can also go over to Show Hide Columns. Here are all the columns that we could potentially show for you. So for example, if you want school district to show up, now it's added it to the bottom of my list. That means it'll be my rightmost column of data, but I can click and drag it and put it anywhere I want, in this case perhaps next to city or address. Once I hit Apply Now, you'll see that school district show up right here. To get rid of it, just come down to Edit Grid again, Show Hide Columns. Easy enough. You can either exit out or uncheck it, whatever it is that you'd like. Lastly, notice I have 5 properties checked. If I come over here to Edit Grid and I say Show Only Selected Rows, the other 78 properties go away, but they will come back. And the other of these buttons down here at the bottom left really also only do things to the properties I have checked. For example, View Reports. Now I will open up a report for the first property in my list, but you can see it's very easy for me to scroll without going back out to the grid. I can come down here and I can click on any property I want. We can have up to 1,000 properties over here in this navigation area so that you can scroll through them very quickly, even with these thumbnail photos. And also, if you ever want to hide any of that information, it's easy enough just to get rid of it as well. So we can close out of that report. Next, you can print up to 25 property detail reports if you have 25 properties checked. Create labels. We went over that relatively quickly. We do 3 different types of labels. We've got your 3 across 10 down Averys and your 2 across 10 down Averys. Barcodes will be going away relatively soon because the U.S. Postal Service is changing their barcodes. You can also see that you can use mixed case or you can use all capital letters. I prefer to mail to a tax billing address if I'm trying to reach an owner. If you use a property address, you might reach a renter. You can show the current owner on the labels, just keeping in mind that we are showing those owner names exactly as they appear on the deeds. They can sometimes be trusts or LLCs or things of that nature. So a lot of times you might want to use a custom label, current resident or dear future home seller, or you can use both. In this case, mine's going to say John Smith, or current resident. Inevitably, if you're printing out a lot of labels, you might find someone that owns more than one property. So rather than print out 5 different labels for someone that owns 5 different properties, you might just want to print out one. Just check this box and we'll eliminate all the duplicates. Each of you will be allowed 5,000 exports per person per month. We'll do all the math for you, let you know how many you have remaining, how many you're about to do in this export, and when you do go to create those, they're going to open up in a .rtf file extension, so rich text format, which means they are going to be able to be opened by WordPerfect, anything else that you want. The big change between Realist Classic and the new version of Realist is that we will not save these anywhere in Realist anymore. It is now up to you to save these if you'd like to use them again and again, keeping in mind that the data will get stale. Just because somebody qualifies for your mailing today doesn't mean they're going to qualify for your mailing next week. But again, these are now yours to do with as you choose. If you'd like to get rid of some of them or change some of the names or change some of the fonts, you can do any of those things that you'd like to as well. Easy enough. Just close out of them. And you can also export this information into CSV format. So you've got 2 choices under Export, Grid or Customize. Grid will export for the properties I have checked all the data you see showing up in the grid right now. Customize will allow you to create a custom export in Excel where you can export up to 140 columns of data or up to 3,000 properties at one time and build yourself a relatively large Excel spreadsheet. Now you can also see you can create your own custom exports and click as many of these as you'd like in these sections. Or you can also create your own mailing templates or your own export templates. I've got a mailing export. When I hit load, all the information that I might need to mail someone is loaded up into my selected attributes. I can export it. Now perhaps if I use a mailing house or something of that nature, I can send off this information to them in Excel. Or maybe I want to import some of this into client management software like Top Producer. Or if I'm a mail merge person, we can do that. Or if you're exporting stats, you can run some stats and do some pivot tables if you're the Excel wizard. But again, we don't save these anywhere in Realist. You'll need to save them on your own, and they do count to that 5,000 export, however many records or labels you export. And that's really about it for the grid. Did want to just go through a couple other things. There were a couple of more advanced features we kind of wanted to talk about on the My Search section. You can create your own searches. So we'll show you some of the tools that are available over here to help you do that. If you go over to Create New Search, we could look for a property with a certain number of bathrooms and a certain number of bedrooms in a specific city with a specific construction type and perhaps also a certain land use code. So when I create that search, it's a couple of tools available to me. We've already talked about the is between, is greater than, and is less than. They work with dates, they work with prices, they work with characteristics like bathrooms. City, for example, if I put in COLO, it's going to autocomplete things for me, so we can easily find Colorado Springs. So the autocomplete feature works on city. We've got drop-downs for you for construction type. We've also got lists that you can suggest or that you can look things up in for land use codes and things of that nature. So if you're looking for all the avocado groves, amusement parks, animal farms, auditoriums, bars, billiard halls, and casinos, quite the eclectic search, you can find those if you'd like to. And again, easy enough to take these things out by Xing them out one at a time. There is also a little tool over here in the My Search section that has the clear values, or you can even delete an entire section or an entire search attribute as well. Now when I go to save a search like this, again, nothing filled out in any of my boxes. It allows me to save the search as a form. So I can call this my test form. I probably won't use it again. But you'll see it'll put the F next to it for form and give it the new name of test form. However, if I'm always looking for homes between 2 and 3 bathrooms and between 2 and 3 bedrooms, and I'm always looking for them in Colorado Springs, and I'm always looking for them and I want them to be made out of brick. Now, just like in Realist Classic, rather than save these search results, we allow you to save the search criteria that you've input. This is a search where my data will already be pre-populated. Now when I call that one test search, we put an S next to it. That's how you know that data was already there when you opened up that search. So we've covered open, create, save. We can clear everything out of the search and grid just by hitting that clear search and grid, and everything will go away. Very powerful button. We'll even cookie the last few searches that you were in as well. Wherever you see these question marks, we've got some video tutorials to show you within the product themselves. I'll show you in the help section where we can get even more helpful videos. But let's next move over to the preferences section, because here's where you can specify Realist to do things the way you want it to do them. So we've got auto open a property detail report when only a single property is found. We've got includes unmatched sale transaction in search results. That has to do with properties that we don't have an account number or a tax ID number for yet. You might imagine that that would happen in areas of new construction where maybe a builder just built a new home, sold it to someone. You notice we'll pick up those sale deeds very quickly within a few days. But we only update in El Paso County, for example, with the assessor's office 4 times a year. So there could be a small period of time where we've got a sale for a property and a recorded deed of sale for a property, but we don't have that tax ID number that allows us to match it up to the tax roll and give you all those physical characteristics about that home. That's an unmatched sale transaction, but we still have that deed that you can search on as long as you have that box checked there. Max number of properties you can ever view in the results grid is 1,000, but you can export up to 3,000, and 250 is the max we'll show you on the map. Next is your reports. I prefer a dynamic display of data. If we have data for a field, we will display that field and the data contained within it, very similar to the way Realist Classic was. We now give you the option to change it to fixed format if you'd like to. That means we will always show every field for a property regardless of whether or not it has data, but that makes those reports a little bit longer. Plus, if a property's never been in foreclosure or a property's never been listed, we'll still show those sections of the report with no data contained in them. So I definitely prefer the dynamic. Property detail report, you can choose to display the map or the property summary at the top and bottom of those reports respectively. And then the rest of these we went through via the Modify Preferences button at the bottom of each of those reports. So for your comparables or your market trends or your neighbors, your neighborhood profile, you can change all those things here too. Here's your email signature where I've put in my John J. Realtor. You can change it to yours. And then over here we've got your map, which allows you to display those parcel lines as a default. Next we'll go over to the help section where we've got plenty of privacy policies from Microsoft and a number of other folks. We've got the contact us information, of course, so if you ever do need to make a phone call, you can call the folks at the MLS. But I would highly recommend taking a look at the user guide. It's a great place to go to get your questions answered. If you click on any of them, we'll open up a new window, and you'll see anything you need to know, for example, using the Realist map and understanding the Realist map tools. We're going to give you some nice graphics, some nice images, some nice descriptions of how to use these things, your boundaries, your trends, your points of interest, your driving directions. You can always visit realist.com as well, learn a little bit more about us. We've got a nice 10-minute video presentation that gives you a very good overview of Realist. Subscribe to our newsletter if you want to know what's coming up and new things to do and new tips and tricks. We've got an FAQ section. Where do we get our data, or how do we do this, that, or the other thing, or what are the system requirements? And we've also got some video tutorials, an introduction, the results grid, the My Search, and the map tools. Now additionally, aside from just on this help page, we've got other videos for you as well. Of course, we're also on Facebook and Twitter. Like us or follow us if you want to check us out there. But we also have the YouTube channel where we'll give you videos about our upcoming releases and how to use a number of other things that we have in Realist. And closing out of there, we've also got the Realist blog. Here's where we'll communicate some information to you as far as when when we're doing routine site maintenance, or what's coming up in the new release, or if you've got any questions about any of the new enhancements or anything like that. Great place to go to find out more information about Realist. And with that, folks, I've pretty much finished this tutorial today. Hope that was helpful for you. Hope you really do like the new Realist. I think it's quite an improvement over the Realist Classic. And most importantly, hope it helps you do your jobs easier and helps you go out there and make a little bit of money. So with that said, thanks again for joining this tutorial, and good luck using Realist.